Does anybody actually want to win the Bundesliga as both Bayern and Borussia Dortmund dropped points this past weekend? We'll talk about that and much more next. That's right, folks, back once again with another prediction video, this time looking forward to match number 32 in your 2018-2019 Bundesliga season, and we'll get to that in just 1 second. If you're new to the channel, stop what you're doing, swallow what you're chewing, and smash that subscribe, keep your back out to date with all things Bundesliga related, Blackburn Rovers related, all here under one roof. Now, before we take a look at match day number 32, let's take a look back at match day number 31. See how many of my predictions I got right and how many of them suckers, and there are many of them, that I got it wrong. Leverkusen picked up a massive 4-1 win over Augsburg to get their Champions League ambitions back on track. They got an outside shot of it now after this weekend's results. We'll take a look at the rest of them in just a second. I actually saw it as a 2-1 win in favour of Augsburg after their 6-1 demolition last time out. So I got that one wrong, folks. Home form means nothing these days. Leipzig took on Freiburg, and Leipzig continue their amazing run. 6 wins on the spin. I saw it as a 2-1, well, the final result was a 2-1 win over Freiburg. I actually saw it as a 4-1 win for Leipzig, so not too shabby indeed, boys and girls. Frankfurt took on Hertha Berlin. Frankfurt picking up a draw on the night, 0-0 in the end, ball draw, Snorfest, and actually makes it 3 games without a win for Europa League interested Eintracht Frankfurt. I actually saw it as a 3-0 win for Eintracht, but no joy in the end. Hannover took on Mainz, and this weekend was full of shocks and surprises in Bundesliga as Hannover picked up a 1-0 win over Mainz to give themselves a bit of a shot getting outside the old drop zone, but they've still got it all to do. Currently 6 points away from that illustrious playoff spot in their eyes. I actually saw it 2-0 in favour of Mainz in the end. Fortuna Düsseldorf took on Werder Bremen, and oh my goodness, Fortuna Düsseldorf picking up an absolute stonking win over Werder Bremen. Now Werder Bremen making back-to-back defeats for them. Fortuna Düsseldorf, their first win in 2 games, or 3 games, should I say. I actually saw it as a 3-2 win in the end for Werder Bremen. So I got the right amount of goals. I just didn't dish them out correctly. Meanwhile, up towards the top of the table, Dortmund took on strugglers Schalke. A bit of a derby, this one. 6-goal thriller in the end, but it went the other way, folks. Unbelievably, Schalke picking up a 4-2 win over Dortmund. Where's this Schalke been all this season? That's their first win in 4 games. For them, as for Dortmund, it's their second win in 4 games, so it's not too great form for the title chasers, but that win gives a big old boost for Schalke if they're going to stay in the division next season. Actually, so it was a 3-1 win in the end for Dortmund, so I got that one absolutely wrong, boys and girls. Stuttgart up against my boys, Mönchengladbach. Now, obviously, what the heck's gone on at Mönchengladbach? The wheels have come off, boys. The Champions League adventure is slowly falling to bits. This is actually 1 win in 6 now after they lost to strugglers Stuttgart, who are in that illustrious playoff spot as it stands. That win for Stuttgart is their first win in 6 games, so a good win for them. I actually saw it going in favour of Mönchengladbach, so how wrong was I? I went with my head, not my heart. Nope, I went with my heart, not with my head. Meanwhile, Hoffenheim took on Wolfsburg. Now, Hoffenheim, prior to this game, were on a 4-game winning streak, but they also lost to Wolfsburg, and they got absolutely battered. 4-1 win in the end for Wolfsburg to close in on Hoffenheim, just a point behind them now, and also maybe even outside aspirations of European football for Wolfsburg these days. I actually saw it going in the favour of Hoffenheim, 3-1 winners in the end. And wrapping up last weekend's action, it was 17th place Nürnberg up against the winners, well, not the winners, the current champions, the current leaders, Bayern. Should be a stone cold away win, right? Not this weekend, boys and girls. Ended up as a 1-1 draw in the end. Absolute shocking result for Bayern. Absolutely bargain result for Nürnberg. Actually, 1 defeat in 5 games for them now. So looking pretty good, but they need to get a couple more wins on their belts because they haven't won as well in 5 games. So I actually saw it as a 2-0 win in the end for Bayern. A similar amount of goals. I just didn't dish them out properly. Meanwhile, up to this weekend's action is Mainz up against Leipzig. Now, Mainz come into this in 12th spot. 2 wins of the past 6 games up against the Leipzig side. 6 wins on the bounce. But I am, because obviously football's a funny old game, I'm actually going to go with an absolute banana skin on this one for Leipzig. 1-0 winners for Mainz. And that win will give them a big old boost and possibly crawl them towards top 10 finish for them if they can get their act together in those remaining games. Meanwhile, Hertha Berlin on the flip side, they take on Stuttgart.
For Berlin come into this in 11th spot without a win in 6. Stuttgart do come into this with 1 win, obviously beating Mönchengladbach last time out. Unfortunately, their winning will stop right there, and Hertha Berlin will finally get back to winning ways with a 2-1 win over Stuttgart. Now Wolfsburg will come up against Nürnberg this weekend. Wolfsburg come into this in 8th spot, 3 wins out of 6 up against the Nürnberg side, who are in 17th spot, unbeaten in 5 games. Tell a lie, 1 loss in 5 games. Difficult one to call this one, so I'm actually going to play it on the fence. A 1-1 draw for me. Everyone will take home a goal and a point. And that point will probably be better for Wolfsburg as they try to squeeze into the top 6 with European football on the line. Mönchengladbach will take on Hoffenheim this weekend. And Mönchengladbach come into this, like I said, 1 win in 6 up against a Hoffenheim side who just lost their last game. But prior to that, 4 wins on the bounce in 7th spot. In fact, if Hoffenheim pick up a big fat win, they will leapfrog Mönchengladbach no matter what. And they could also, well, that will push them into the old Europa League spots once again. But the season is running rapidly, and I'm going to go with my heart once again because I need Mönchengladbach to get back into winning ways. So I'm going to go with a 2-1 win for Gladbach and maybe get their Champions League spots back into grasp. Meanwhile, Bayern take on Hannover this weekend. Will Bayern slip up back-to-back weekends, or will Hannover win back-to-back games? Unfortunately, I don't think so. I think Bayern will come back impressive style, 4-0 winners at the Allianz Arena and put Hannover on the brink of the drop. Meanwhile, Werder Bremen will take on second place Borussia Dortmund. Now it looks like a much harder game for Dortmund these days up against the Werder Bremen side in 9th spot. However, Werder Bremen come into this back-to-back defeats for them up against the Dortmund side, though 2 defeats out of 4. It will be difficult, but I still think Borussia Dortmund will edge it 2-1 away from home to give them still an outside shot at that title. Meanwhile, Schalke come into this up against Augsburg. Schalke 15th, Augsburg are in 14th. Both teams just above the old relegation playoff spot, so they need wins, both of them, to get themselves out of it and secure. Schalke will make it back-to-back wins. Will this be their point when their season comes alive, just as the season comes to a close? They've not been in it all season, absolutely shambolic. Obviously in Champions League football earlier in the campaign, but been woeful. So 3-1 win for me over Augsburg. Freiburg will take on Fortuna Düsseldorf. Freiburg coming to this in 13th spot, 4 defeats on the spin up against the Fortuna Düsseldorf side, who have won 3 out of the past 5. Difficult one to call for me, but I'm going to go with Freiburg. I don't know how. Obviously, those banana skins do crop up left, right, and centre, and I think another one's going to be right here at Freiburg. Obviously, with that win in 6, they'll get back to winning ways at last, and that win will push them further and further up the table and away from those illustrious bottom 3 spots or bottom 2 spots plus playoff. Meanwhile, Leverkusen will take on Frankfurt this weekend. Leverkusen come into 6th, Frankfurt come into this in 4th. Leverkusen win 3 on the spin, whereas Frankfurt have yet to win in 3. So, do contrasting forms. Obviously, Eintracht Frankfurt have an outside thoughts on Europa action this week as well. And Frankfurt will lose this one. Leverkusen will pick up a big fat 3-1 win to make it 4 wins on the spin, and that win could push them into the Champions League spots because Frankfurt occupy that illustrious 4th spot as it stands. But yeah, big result this one could be for the grand scheme of things. Who will remain in those Champions League spots at the end of the season?
That's pretty much all I've got for you today, folks. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a good old thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, smash the thumbs up. What am I doing? That's pretty much all I've got for you today, folks. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a good old thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, smash the old subscribe. Get your bang up to date with all things Bundesliga related, Blackburn Rovers related, world football related. We're all here under one roof. And before I let you get out of it, make sure you check out the old description. Links to my other social media platforms are in there. Twitter, Facebook, and of course, the hotly new Patreon page, bad boy. Make sure you check that sucker out. Give you an opportunity to help the channel in another way besides your viewership. There are definitely 3 different tiers of subscription service to the old Patreon page, so check that sucker out when you get a chance. But anyway, let me also hear your thoughts and opinions about the old Matchday 32, what you think will happen this weekend. Will Bayern remain number 1, or can Dortmund close the gap? We'll talk all about that next week to see what the situation is. Thanks again for watching. Please like, share, and most importantly, hit the subscribe button to keep you bang up to date with all things Blackburn Rovers related, Championship related, football related. We've got it all covered right under one roof. And while I still have you, please be sure to check out some of the old videos scattered along here. I hope.